Hi, and welcome to another simple Ruby programming tutorial. In this tutorial, I decided to put all the necessary things that you need to know in Ruby programming together. This is almost everything that you need to get started. The first and most important thing that we need to know is about print. Print helps you to put any instruction, any word that you want, and display it in your output. So if you use print, you will put hello world on the screen. So I'm now going to get the output, and you will see it says hello world. But the thing with print is that there is no space after it. There is no backslash in after hello world. So anything that you have that comes after print will be on the same line as your hello world. Puts is another command that we can use to print something on our screen in the output. The difference between prints and put is here. So as you can see, finished in 0.3 second was on the first line, but now it's on the second line because puts automatically put a backslash in after it finished. So sometimes, most of the time, it is more convenient to use puts to make everything neat and organized. This is the way that we assign a variable. You just choose a name, anything that you want. Here I choose name age. You can even use just one letter like A or B or anything. And then if you want to write it in form of the string, you will put it into quotation marks like the first one. If you want to put it in the form of the number digit, you will just put the number and you don't put any quotation mark around it. In order to see if the value of our variables have been saved, we can just use puts or prints to see our output. And here I'm gonna use puts, and then without any quotation, I'm just gonna put name, which is the same as the name above here. Sometimes we want to write a text before entering our value. In order to do that, because your text have to be in the quotation marks, you can either put the quotation marks and do a hash sign with the curly bracket and put the name inside of it, like this one. And another way of assigning it is just to put your text into a quotation marks, and you have to pay attention. Your space have to be inside of the quotation mark. Otherwise, these two are going to be so close together. For example, if I delete the quotation, if I delete the space, these two are going to be so close to each other without the space. So you have to put this space between the quotation mark. Now we have another two variables, one called num1, and we put it equal to 5, another one called num2, and the value of it is 6.5. The first way is change each number to the string. So we use puts and then num1 dot toString and then num2 dot toString. When you're adding two numbers together, let's get the output first. When you're adding two numbers together while they are a string, it's going to just put two numbers beside each other. It's going to be 56.5. 5 first because num1 is first, and 6.5 second because number 2 is second. So this is 56.5 or 56.5. Next one is changing the numbers to the integer. Integer, when you're changing both numbers to the integer, it will just look at the whole number and it will ignore anything after decimal. So it means it will use 5 and 6 instead of 6.5. And when I add 5 and 6 together, we will get 11. Next one is changing the number to the float. When you're changing the number to the float, it will take the whole number. Even the decimal numbers will be counted as well. So here we are adding 5 and 6.5, and we are getting 11.5 in the output. Array is another useful syntax in Ruby as well. For array, you can not only give one value to a variable, but you can give multiple values to a variable, like a group. So right now we have A, and we decided to assign 1, high, and 23.5 in an array. As you can see, an array can get multiple different types of objects inside of it. It can either get the number as an integer, it can get a number as a float, and it also can get even a text. But when you want to put a text inside of it, you have to make sure that you put it inside of the quotation marks so it will be in the form of a string. And we get the output 1 high 23.5, exactly the same as here. This is how you assign a new value to your array. We have an already existing array, which is A, and we have 1 high 23.5 inside of our array. If we want to add another value to our array, we can just put A and do arrow signs and 54. So our first array is the one that we printed before 54, and the second one is the array that we printed after 54, and as you can see, 54 is added here. It is sometimes confusing when you're trying to figure out which output is which, and since we want all of the output to be on the same line, but we want each of the output to be on the separate line, we can use \n in each of our print so we can tell which output is from which line. We have to use the quotation marks and then the sign, the number sign, curly brackets, and A inside of it, so we will make sure that this A is the value of our array, and then \n. Same thing for the second print as well. Now we can tell the difference, that this one is the first A and this one is the second A. Sometimes you don't want all the values of the array all together to be printed down here, and each value separately. When you want each value separately, you will use puts or prints, and then the name of your array and brackets. Inside of that brackets, from 0 you start counting your numbers. So 1 is in the place 0, high is in place number 1, 23.5 is in place number 2, and our 54 is going to be in the place number 3. Now let's print this. We have puts, we have A0 printed as 1, we have A3 printed as 54, and we have A5 which printed as an empty space here. The reason is because we don't have any number 5 inside of our array, so there is no output for it, but there is still an empty space here. So something else which is very useful in Ruby that I want to show you are hashes. Hashes are actually known as dictionary in Ruby as well. That means you will have one key and you will assign it to a value. For example, here I have number 1. It can be anything else. It can be flower, it can be color, or anything else that you want. Now let's see how we can print them on the screen. When we are using puts numbers, it's going to print all of them all together. When we are using puts numbers and then in a bracket, we will say the keyword, which is 1 or 2, or you can use 3, then it will give us the output, which is 1 in digit or 2 in digit or 3 in digit. Right now we're going to print 1 and 2 in the output. Let's look at the output. So these are all printed on the screen. I'm going to add a duplicate to my hash and to my array and see how each one of them would respond to that. Now look at this interesting and very useful thing. As you can see, I added a duplicate in my array. So my array accepted that duplicate. Now we have 1, 1. There are 2, 1. And then I output it here, and we still can see 1 and 1. Both of the ones are here. Now let's add a duplicate to our numbers with the same value. So I'm going to copy and paste 3 and 3 together. Now I have two 3s in one hash. And let's see how it would react to 2 duplicate key and value in our hash. As you can see, we got a warning here, and it says there is one of the keys are duplicated. So let's look at the output. What do we got for the output? It deleted, line 1 ignored. So 3 is ignored, and we still have just one 3 key and one 3 hole and one 3 value. But our array accepted both of them. And now what happens if we have keys with different values? We're going to see which one is going to be ignored, which one is going to be accepted. Here I assigned 4 as a value to our key, which was 3. And when we are looking at our output, we see that 3 is ignored and 4, which is a higher number, is accepted. So when you're using a hash, it always ignores the smaller number, and it accepted the bigger number. It accepted the bigger value for the duplicate keys. This is very useful, and you can see a use for this in counting the word frequency example, which is on the screen. Now let's look at our if statements. The structure of an if statement is you will start with if, and then you will put your condition in front of your if, and if that condition is met, it will print whatever you instruct it to do. After if you want to be in the same if statement, you will put else if, and you will put your condition in front of it, and if that condition is met, you will say I want this output. And then you have else. There is no condition in front of it. It means if this one didn't happen and this one didn't happen, anything else that happened, print this one on the screen. Always make sure when you're writing an if statement in Ruby, you have to put an and at the end of your if statement. And now let's look at the output. And notice our A is equal to 5. And 5 is bigger than, we didn't say equal, is going to be bigger, so it's going to be in our else statement. A is greater than 5 or equal to 5. Now let's change the value of A to 1. It's in looking at our first statement, the condition is met, so it's going to print A is equal to 1. You can see A is equal to 1. Now let's put 4 here. As you can see, the first one is not met, so it's going to the else if, and it will look, it says A have to be greater than 1, but there is another condition as well. A have to be less than 5, and since we put and in between them, that means that both of the conditions have to be made. That means it has to be start from 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to put this statement. Otherwise, we're going to put else statement. You can put 2 lines parallel to each other like this, and you're going to say if this one or this one. It means that it doesn't need both of them to be met. Just if one of them is met, that's enough to the output to be printed on the screen. Another thing which is very similar to if statement are the case statements. In case, you will assign a variable. So here we have A is equal to 12, and then we start our case, and we write our condition by using when. So we are saying when A is equal to 1, make sure that you're putting 2 equal. In if statement, it has to be 2 equals as well. So when A is equal to 1, print this statement on the screen. When A is equal to 2, it means when this condition is met, put A is equal to 2. When A is equal to 12, print this one on the screen. Right now we have our A equal to 12. If you run the program, it's going to tell us, it's going to print this one on the screen. And make sure after each statement you use exit, just in case if you want to go through all the statement, you will stop it from doing that. We're going to change our a to 1, and then when we print it, we see that a is equal to 1. It's the first statement because the first condition is met. Sometimes you want your program to do something over and over again. Whenever you want something to happen over and over again, you have to use loops. There are different type of loops. One of the most common ones that you can almost use for anything is while loop. You can use until, you can use times as well. Always make sure that you will close your while loop with an end, otherwise it's not going to work. Here we have a very simple while loop. Our a is equal to 0, so our value is 0. We are saying while a is less than 10, do this. While a is less than 10, do this. So our a is 0. We will start going through the loop. Since our condition is met, our a is less than 10, so we're going through the loop. First one is a is plus equal to 1. That means take a, add 1 to it, and output it to a again. So our a is 0, we add 1 to it, it will become 1, and we will put it back in a again. So now our a is equal to 1. When we print it, we're going to print 1. We go back again from the beginning to our while loop, and our a is 1, 1 is less than 10, so we start looping again, and we do the same thing all over again. 1 plus 1 is 2, put 2 on the screen, and go back here and start again till we get to 10. Sorry, till we get to 9. We don't get to 10 because there is no plus equal. There is only less than. So here, if 9 is less than 10, it's going to do this. It's going to add 1 to 9. It's going to be 10, and then it will output 10 on the screen. And it will go back through the loop again, but this time it is 10. So 10 is equal to 10, and the condition is not met anymore, so it will get out of the loop. That's why it's true that we don't have equal sign, but we still print 10 on the screen. As you can see, we are starting from 1, so our first number is ignored, and we started from 1 to 10. Now don't confuse this with other ones that the last number is not it's not counted. This is different, and this is because we already made it 10. It already became 10, and we already printed, and then it went back to the while loop to check for the condition. Another type of loop which is very simple and straightforward is using times. So you will choose how many times you want something to happen. I choose 10 times, and then I used you will put do, and you will use your variable in the front of it, and you will decide what you want to happen to your variable. Here I decided that I want to print my variable. So I'm going to run this program, and you will see that I have hi printed on the output 10 times. We have a simple function here. When you want to write a function in Ruby, you will use def at the beginning, and then you will choose the name of your function, and you will use the variables that you're going to be using in your function, and then you will decide what you want to be happen to your variable. Here I decided to return a divided by 2, since our function is a division function, and the name of it is divide. And then I put divide on the screen, and I choose 4, so our a, my a is equal to 4. and when I'm going to print it on the screen, it's going to print 2, which is 4 divided by 2, which is going to be 2. I can put 6 in here, and when I get the output, I will get 3, which makes sense. Functions are very useful in case you don't want to, if you have a very long function. This is a small function, but if you have a very long piece of code and you want it to happen to each part of your program, and instead of writing all of the lines all over again, you can define a function at the beginning of your program or at the end of it, and you can just print the name of your function and the variables that you want to use, and it's going to do all the things. It's going to go back inside of your function and do all the things that you want it to do. I think the easiest way that we can learn about classes is to imagine them as a table or chart. So they're actually blueprints, so they can be table or charts. So here we use the name of shoes, and then we have 2 things above, which is style and color. We're going to talk about style and color of each one of the shoes that we're going to talk about. And then we have our first shoe and we have our second shoe. First shoe and the second shoe. So the attributes of each one of the shoes, the style of the first one is going to be flat, and the color of the first one is going to be black. The style of the first one is going to be high heels, and the style of the color of the second one, it's going to be nude. So we have this table, and we want to enter this table the way that it is inside of our Ruby. Now let's see how does it look like in Ruby. We have class, we'll define it. The name of it is going to be shoes, and then the attribute accessor, we decided to use style and color, and then we're going to define each one of the members, which is the first shoe. The way that you define it is you use the name of your class, which is shoes, and the first letter is capital. And then you put .new, so you will tell Ruby that it is a new member. And then you're defining each attributes of the first shoe. You put .style, which is the first attribute, and the first shoe is going to be flat. And then first shoe .color, the color of the first shoe is going to be black. And then you define another member for your class, which is second shoe, and we define it with shoes, the name of our class, .new. And then we start writing the attributes for the second shoe. So the style of it is going to be high heels, and the color of it, it's going to be nudes. And then when we want to get the output, we're going to use puts, and for example, we want to know what was the second shoe style, which is, you're going to use Control B, and it's going to be high heels. So our second shoe style was high heels, and this is correct here. So another thing which is going to be very interesting is, for example, putting your class schedule into the class. So you can define it as class schedule, and then you can put days of the week here: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then you can define the hours, for example 9 o'clock .new and 10 o'clock .new, and then you can start entering the name of your courses in each one of the square in your table. And then you can just ask the program, what do I have, for example, on Monday at 10 o'clock, and it's going to print it down here, which is a very good idea for an application. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in next video.